Prisoners of Geography. Summary of chapter number 5 about Africa. Number 1. Massive desert and surrounding oceans became a hurdle in technological advancement of Africa. The geography of the Africa is partially responsible for its status as one of the least developed continents, because the continent is in large enclosed by the Sahara Desert, the Atlantic and Indian Ocean. Technological revolutions and new ideas could not reach Africa for thousands of years. Number 2. Magnanimity of continent and disconnected lands converted Africa into dark continent. Africa is much bigger compared to how it is depicted on the Mercator world map. It is 3 times larger than USA. Its lack of connection to outside world and inner isolation of tribes led to isolated communities. Number 3. African coastlines became curse rather than blessing for sea trade. African coastline is smooth, which means that the natural harbors of Africa are not very useful for sea trade. Despite it being surrounded by oceans, the continent is not well connected to outside world. Pirates have also been the reason for this lack of connectivity through oceans, especially in Central African countries. Number 4. African rivers and water bodies are not navigable. Africa undoubtedly has some magnificent, great rivers, the Niger, the Congo, the Zambezi or the Nile. Sadly, they are almost useless when it comes to trade. The great rivers do not connect, are hardly navigable and full of waterfalls. Number 5. African climate breeds diseases. Because of its climate, Africa is a home to vast, virulent diseases such as malaria, yellow fever or HIV. Diseases are a major cause of poverty and malnutrition in continent. Number 6. Natural resources fell in hands of outsiders due to lack of technological development of Africa. Africa is both blessed and cursed by the abundance of natural resources. Even though the continent is richly endowed, it is mostly the outsiders who benefit from plundering them. Number 7. Geography hindered development of a unified culture and language. Another reason why no advanced trading networks were built across communities are local languages. Disconnected lands due to non-navigable rivers and huge desert gave birth to isolated tribes. More than thousands of languages exists in Africa. But, before colonialism, there was no force which could dominate a significant part of the continent. There was no lingua franca. Number 8. Geography of Africa helped outsiders to colonize it. Natural barriers facilitated conflicts and divisions. There are 56 countries in Africa. The Africans can be thought of as true prisoners of geography, imprisoned by the natural barriers and well as the colonizers, who divided the continent to their liking. The Africans had internal conflicts, but the Europeans are the primary cause of the modern wars. Number 9. Suez Canal, Nile and northern and southern Africa runs African economy. The Suez Canal controls 2.5% of the world's oil and 8% of entire trade. The African rivers are in general not good for trade, but good for hydroelectricity. Number 10. Natural minerals and energy resources are main drivers of African economy. Export of oil, natural minerals and human capital is still running African economy. Diamonds, gold, copper are among major export gems. Number 11. Nile and natural minerals are a source of conflict. River Nile affects 10 countries. However, as Herodotus said, Egypt is the Nile and the Nile is Egypt. The majority of Egyptians live within a few miles of the Nile. Measured by the area in which people dwell, Egypt is one of the most densely populated countries in the world. Despite the long history of conflicts with Israel, the likely quarrel right now is with Ethiopia, the issue over the Nile. Ethiopia is Africa's water tower. Due to its geography, it can collect big amounts of water from the Nile, over 20 dams built. Recently, Ethiopia has built the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Now, it needs to be filled with water. As a result, Egypt is worried about the reduced river flow in its part of the Nile. It demands the guarantees from Ethiopia that the flow will never be stopped. Conflict resolution strategies are still underway. Similarly, mineral mines have also remained a bone of contention, not only among African tribes and warlords themselves, but also among outsiders. To conclude, geography has played a major role in shaping the fate of African continent.